Agnes. Agnes lives out there.
The alligator?
Yeah, Agnes the alligator, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She's only a 10-footer. It's okay.
Ellie and I got to pet a baby alligator on Thursday because the
There's not.
Bubonic Swamp came to, the first graders learned about Louisiana this year in social studies. So we had a Louisiana day. They put on a play. It was adorable. Louisiana was a peach. And then there was a festival. And one of the stations, there was a Zydeco band that was a station to teach them. And there was the Bubonic Swamp. And so she got to touch a turtle. And I learned that the turtle, whatever kind of turtle it was, does not swim. So if you put that turtle in a pond, it would be no more. I did not know
Isn't
there
that
were.
a tortoise?
I didn't know. I don't know what you called it.
I thought
It was. I will say.
Yeah.
Hey Scott, we don't really need your correctness here.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
I will say it was quite clear. It was quite clear that the gentleman leading that station was not used to teaching first graders. I will say that. Quite clear.
You get your chance. Teach about the first graders.
Just you or the rest of the family too? James, I have that your family is lighting our Shabbat candles.
Tonight?
It's on my piece of paper. Is that not happening?
Amanda and Sophie won't be here. Where are they from?
I have the person knew. I'm not that someone must have called you. It says Amanda, James, Noah, and Sophie. I'm assuming that doesn't have a last name, but I imagined it was you.
I bet Amanda.
It's no big deal. Do you still want to do it? Or? Yeah. That's probably, yeah. Do you have her family was on last week, right? The York site or this week?
Both,
Okay.
I think.
I knew there was a Chapman last week.
Yeah, that was her grand.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a Chapman on this.
I don't see a Chapman. Would there be a different night? I think Noah can handle it.
So, where did you see this from?
On Thursday, first grade at U-High had Louisiana Day, and the kids put on a play to teach us about Louisiana, and then there was like a festival at U-High that the parents were with our first graders, and one of the tents was the Bubonic Swamp. And so each class got some time with this gentleman at the swamp, and he brought, according to Scott, it was not a turtle, it was a tortoise. There was a snake, there was a baby alligator. Yeah, it was just one of the, it was quite, I learned a lot about Louisiana in this little play they were doing. And then, hold on one second, Jacob. And then the different stations, there was like a whole bunch of Louisiana food, including an entire roasted pig, which we tried to get a picture of, but whatever.
Fish on the lake?
Yes, that word was on the sign. I had to ask what it was. And it was like parents did all of this stuff. There was like an art station where we took Mardi Gras beads and turned it into a king cake looking art piece. It was very Louisiana. There was a Zydeco band there that was like teaching the kids their, yeah, so it was their like culmination of first grade learning.
I had to be looking at, turtle regulations in district this week.
Just for fun?
Definitely.
Okay.
The commission, wildlife fishing
Yeah.
commission, is tightening up some regulations on,
Good.
turtles and exotic animals and things.
Okay.
And asked us to assess that. Can't wait.
Do you know what your water is?
So that I don't know that they just voted on,
Yes.
the guy had to change. And
To the gentleman, he had a color in his hair, but it wasn't green.
I
You think you went to Bubonic Swamp instead of there?
sometimes suffer with evolve.
He was not.
Whatever.
I didn't catch his name. He was like a youngish guy. Not ish. He was young. And he had. Bubonic Swamp dude with snakes. I have a picture of him. Eliana is in Mandeville tonight because at her daddy's temple, they are doing something special. An Israeli artist, which we did something with, but not actually him, Hanoch Piven, flew in from Israel and is at Eliana's daddy's temple tonight. So she went with him to services tonight. Mandeville, which is like that away. It's like an hour drive.
I've done a 9 hours on.
You drove?
No.
Yeah. Whoa. So you really passenger? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, if there's any left?
I checked.
It is all right with me. It is all right. The little, you remember the little bottles? It's
Like
the-
glass.
Yeah, it's called Limonada. Stands for lemonade with mint. It's fine with me if it's fine with your mom or something. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So great for us to be together, to celebrate Shabbat. Anybody else hearing that? Like an echo to the audio? No, it's in my own head. Okay. Without Michael Roth here, I don't really know how to fix it, to be honest. One thing I could maybe do. Try that. Without, so I would agree with that. I will say we are live streaming, as long as that is working, to any of our friends and family at home who are joining us for services, and so without them they would hear nothing. So great that we have the technology, that we're able to be together in this space and send our prayers literally across the interconnected web to everyone who would like to join us. It is so great that we're able to be together tonight. I hope everyone jumped at the right moments of jumping last night with some very loud thunder and has made it through with minimal damage to their homes. And as we enter prayers tonight, we think about those in Houston who definitely were affected a little bit more than we were here in Baton Rouge because of the weather that we've been having. But as we think about them and people all over the world, let us think about ourselves for a moment and bring a little joy to our Shabbat service. So I'm going to invite you, if anybody has anything that they want to share that has just been amazing in the past week. Isaac, you want to start us off?
It's Friday! It's Friday!
It's Friday. How many days of school do you have left? 5? You have a full next week? 4. Sounds like he wants to keep going. Wonderful. Other great things we want to share.
Got a new cat.
Ooh, got a new cat. Wonderful. Did you name your cat? Nissan? Beautiful. Yes. Elise, hold on.
Just came back from visiting my parents in Memphis. My dad's 97, mom's 88. And every morning they toast each other their coffee to the love of my life. And I love,
That's beautiful. So nice, and so nice to be able to travel and be with family. Other good things that have happened in the past week?
We had the great celebration of celebrating my dear friend Robbie Rubin's birthday.
Happy birthday.
It's not yet, but you know, when you become this age, you start May 1st and go to May 31st.
Happy birthday month. Anybody else? Noah, how many days of school do you have left?
I have 1.5 days.
1.5 days of school left. Nice. Other exciting things we're bringing to this Shabbat moment? Well, let us enter Shabbat. You will notice for services this evening, everything you need will be on the screens. But if you'd like to follow along in a prayer book, those are available underneath your seats, and I invite you to pick whichever you are most comfortable with in order for us to join together, pray together, and celebrate Shabbat. So let us enter Shabbat by lighting our Shabbat candles. I'm going to invite up the Bowmans to join me up here, down there actually. Just the English pages. Can I hand it to them? No, you want to hold my phone?
Ready to read this?
As these Shabbat candles
Give
give
light
light
to all who behold them. So may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Beautiful. If you will light those candles for us, and we will join together. Oh, thank you, thank you. You can just use the candle that's lit. promise they're not trick candles. Let us bring in the lights of Shabbat and join together in our prayer. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. Thank you both. Let us now join together on page 124, reading together. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, and the flaws within our human heart, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Let us now welcome the presence of Shabbat with the words of Lecha Dodi, page 138. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad hishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad L'Shem u'tiferet ve'litila Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'maksheva techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri kiva orech kumi ori uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 panei Shabbat nekabela. If you are comfortable doing so, I invite you to rise to face the door so we can greet Shabbat. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, גם בשמחה ובסהולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. Before you take your seats, if you'd like to take a moment and wish somebody a Shabbat Shalom, maybe someone you didn't arrive with, someone you're not having dinner with after, but take a moment to wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Once you've had an opportunity to greet one or two people, I invite you to head back to your seats. Let us continue this theme of welcoming as we welcome the ministering angels of Shabbat with the words of Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want you to think for a moment about times in your life where you intentionally mark transitions. Whether it be in the morning when the alarm goes off, whether it be at night how you unwind to prepare yourself to sleep, whether it be in the middle of the day going from a meeting to something else, or whether it be how you prepare yourself for Shabbat, a time where we are supposed to hit a pause button and allow ourselves to let all of our worries from the week drop to our side, allow ourselves to not think about the long to-do list that hasn't been marked off, and allow ourselves just to be present in the moment. Each one of us has different ways we mark transitional moments, whether they be small daily activities or big ones like birthdays, new jobs, retirement. The rabbis who put together our liturgy knew how important it was to mark these transitional moments. And that is exactly what Chatzi Kaddish, Reader's Kaddish, is used for in our service. It's a moment where hopefully if you need to, you take a deep breath, Whatever you've done before you entered this space is no longer on your mind. You've done your prayer warm-up, whatever that is for you. And you are now ready to enter Baruch Hu and Shema and the words that we say that have been passed down from generation to generation. So I invite you to enter that space now. Figure out what it is for you to transition from the busy work week to hopefully the pause of Shabbat, as we join together page 144. Yitgadal v'kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei de kol beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kariv Ve'imeru Amen. Yahei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olam Me'omaya Yitbarach Ve'yishtabach Ve'yitpa'ar Ve'yitroman Ve'yitnaseh V'yitadar Ve'yitaleh Ve'yitalal Shemei Dekudasha Barichu Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imeru. Amen. As we turn to page 146, I invite you to please rise. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. We continue reading together page 149. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Sivaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Continuing together. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. As we turn the page and find the words of Shema, I invite you to rise if you wish. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, We continue chanting together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'kol avavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam livanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvleftecha v'aderech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, Uchtavtam al mezuzo beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem ekol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. We read responsively page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Page 158. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, o seifele, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Page 161, we read together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue singing the words which remind us that we are the keepers, the guardians of Shabbat, to make sure it continues week after week, month after month, year after year. Page 162. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim Asa Adonai, Asa Adonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam, uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. I want us to pause for a moment and think about, what does it mean for you to pray?
It kind of means like God, you telling God that you're here, you're very thankful for what He's given us, trees, life, air, everything that you can honestly think of. Everything here is made out of what God gave us.
I should have ended with Isaac so no one would have to go after him. Anybody else? Isaac, everybody's afraid.
It parts the time and gives me a special time to focus on God and all that God has given to us.
Anybody else?
It's kind of like a conversation almost.
Wonderful.
It means to come here once a week and to be with fellow Jews. And if we don't come, what are we doing?
Anybody else want to share? So why do I ask this question at this moment in the service? Do you have any answers to what I just asked?
Because we're about to pray.
Jacob says we're about to pray big time. He's not wrong. But why in this moment? Why do I ask here about our connection to prayer? We've been praying since we came into this room, but the way our liturgy is set up is that there are different highlighted moments in our evening service. And we're about to enter what's known as the Amidah, or Tefillah. We are about to enter this central moment of prayer. It reminds us of our ancestors. We'll talk about our forefathers and our foremothers. It allows us to think about this word givurah, strength that God has. And it allows us to think about being kadosh, being holy people. This is a prayer that is done every day of the week, but it is different on Shabbat. Other days of the week, if you were to pray the Amidah, there would be a lot more included. And on Shabbat, we take out a middle section, which are petitions, things that we ask God for. Because on Shabbat, we only ask God for two things. I'll give you a moment to think about what you think those two things are, and then I will give you the answer. The two things we ask God for on Shabbat are peace and healing. You're all nodding your heads, so congratulations to those who knew that answer. But the Amidah is still an important piece of our liturgy, even though we take out so many of those things where we petition God for things on Shabbat. And it's words that are chanted all over the world in almost the same way. When I had the joy to be at Shabbat services in Ukraine many years ago, I did not speak the language, didn't understand anything going on in the native part of services. But when we got to things like the Amidah, I could sing and chant along with everyone in the room. These words not just connect us to our past, our strength, and our holiness, but connect us to Jews all over the world who are praying these exact same words. So I invite you now to find whatever it is to enter your prayerful moment as we turn to page 164 and following and enter this moment of prayer. And I invite you to please rise. Adonai sefatai tifta ufiya gitekilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'Mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo v'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somik Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melech, Melech Memit, Umechayeh, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanat Alechayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, v'kadoshim b'chol yom halelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. I invite you to continue now with your own prayers, either using the words in the prayer book on pages 172 to 180, or the prayers you have in your own hearts this Shabbat evening, and I invite you to be seated whenever you wish. shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'yakol Yisrael. Ve'imru, imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Some of you may know that we are in this time period counting from where? Passover to where? Some of you have been here every Friday night since we've started doing this. You know my spiel. We are in the counting of the Omer. It's no more than saying a blessing each night and counting our days from the Exodus to the holiday of Shavuot, which is Erev Shavuot is June 11th, where we celebrate the receiving of Torah. Soon you'll get information about how we will be doing that together as a community. I will say, though, there is this great tradition that one of the ways you celebrate Shavuot, I'm not talking about the all-nighter where you study all night, but the other tradition. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Cheesecake or some kind of dairy, right? You're supposed to have some kind of sweet dairy. So when the information goes out, of course, we will include our sweet dairy as well. So we're going to join together in the counting of the Omer. We are on the 25th day. If you're in your prayer books, we're on page 570. And I invite you, if you're comfortable, to join me in the blessing and the counting of the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctifies us with mitzvot and commands us concerning the counting of the Omer. Today is the 25th day, which is 3 weeks and 4 days of the Omer. As we count from freedom to the gift of Torah, we know that many people, some amongst us tonight, some in our friends and family, and of course in our community and across the world, might not necessarily always feel free. And possibly it's because they're suffering some kind of illness. So let us pause now to offer prayers of healing. As a community, we think of Joy Lewis, Minna Bat Yentl, Mordechai Ben Dina, Anna Carlo, Judy Roheim, Frida Tamaro Bat Liba Bela, Manucha Pesa Bat Cherny Umoshe, Gretchen Haynes, Ruby Smolinski, Jennifer Casson, Storm Matthews, Terry Stern, Judith Von Brentnell, Kaylee Barron, David Berman, Harvey Schwartzberg, Maxine Cohn, David Leek, Barbara Stockner, Janet Gerwich, Danielle Riker, Laura Swire, Nevin Rose, Cindy DeMarco, Sheldon Rossin, James Stockner, Vicki Jenkins, Steve Ginsberg, Yitzchak Dov Ben Chana, Devora Bat Yaakov Chaim Vabela, Janice Thomas, Rena Bander, and Arlette Goldstein. If there are others you are thinking of this evening, if you'd like to share their names aloud, I invite you to do so. For those names we heard aloud, those whom we hold in our hearts, and those in need of healing in Israel, let us offer these prayers of healing found on page 371. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. I want to share a story with all of you tonight. So it's the year 1502. A man named Jacobo and his wife Esperanza came to settle in the city of Sfat, high on a mountain in the Holy Land of Israel. Jacobo and Esperanza had been born in Spain, but in 1492, Spain expelled all her Jews. Jacobo and Esperanza, then young and strong, traveled from Spain to Seleucia in Greece, where they lived for several years. There they heard of the great Rabbi Isaac Luria, who was known as the Ari, who led the Jews of Sfat, a community steeped in Kabbalah, the mystical teachings. Rabbi Luria taught that God is hidden and mysterious, but can be seen in the actions of those on earth who acknowledge God's creative power and seek to obey God's will. And so, in Seleucia, Esperanza and Jacobo boarded a ship and sailed for Israel. In Sfat, they found a community of Jews dedicated to serving God, but struggling to feed themselves. One Shabbat, the rabbi taught the congregation that when the temple stood in Jerusalem, before it was destroyed by the Romans, God was offered 12 loaves of bread each week, just prior to Shabbat. Jacobo was a simple man whose honesty, integrity, and kindness far exceeded his learning. He did not understand much of what the rabbi had said, but did remember about the loaves. So when he arrived home, he told Esperanza, "Next Friday morning, let us bake 12 loaves of challah." The rabbi taught this morning that God loves challah for Shabbat, as do many of us, I'm sure. "I will bring them to the synagogue, and I will give them to God." Now, Esperanza was a wonderful baker, and Jacobo was filled with joy at the thought that he and his wife would be able to please God in this manner. That week, they baked the finest 12 loaves of challah they had ever made. They kneaded the dough with love, expressing their awe of God and their love of Judaism through their efforts. When the loaves came out of the oven and had cooled, Jacobo carefully packed them in a burlap sack, hoisted them onto his shoulder, and headed for the synagogue. When he arrived in the synagogue, he looked around to be certain that no one saw him, then tiptoed to the ark, opening the ark doors and placing the loaves of challah inside the ark. Jacobo whispered, "Señor Dios, I have brought you the challah you love so much. My Esperanza and I made it just for you." Tomorrow, on Shabbat morning, when they open the ark to take out the Sefer Torah, I'm going to look to see if they are gone, every crumb. so we will know that you like our gift." With that, Jacobo closed the ark, drew the curtain closed across it, and tiptoed out of the synagogue. No sooner had he left than the synagogue helper entered the room to sweep the floor and prepare the synagogue for Shabbat. When his eyes caught sight of the ark, he put down his broom and he approached it. "Lord," he prayed, "I don't ask for much. You know I am not paid for being the helper in this synagogue. I do this job out of love for you and the Holy Torah. But my children are hungry. I need food for them. Even if the people of Sfat cannot pay me, perhaps you can feed my children, God." It was then that the helper noticed the enticing aroma of warm bread emanating from the ark. Impulsively, he took a few steps forward and opened the ark. Gasping, he exclaimed, "My God, a miracle! I knew you would feed my children. Thank you so much." The helper gathered the challah and ran home to his wife, who was overjoyed to see the food for their children. They decided to eat 2 loaves that evening for their Erev Shabbat meal, 2 loaves for lunch after they prayed the next morning, 2 more later in the afternoon, and then save 1 for each day of the coming week. "Next week we shall see what happens," the helper's wife told him, for her faith was now strong. The next morning, the congregation assembled in the synagogue to celebrate Shabbat. Jacobo waited eagerly for the ark to be opened. He grew more and more anxious. Would the challah still be in there? Had God accepted their gift? Had God enjoyed the challah? When Rabbi Luria opened the ark, Jacobo's prayers had been answered. There was not a crumb in the ark. Thank God, he prayed, and smiled at Esperanza. As soon as 3 stars appeared in the sky, why as soon as 3 stars appeared in the sky? Yeah. Not starts, but ends. Awesome. Esperanza and Jacobo made Havdalah to end Shabbat and set about discussing their plans to bake challah for God every Friday morning. The following Friday, they removed 12 beautiful loaves from their oven. What do you think they did with them? Put them in the ark. And what do you think happened? A short time later, the helper came to clean the synagogue, and approaching the ark, found the challah waiting for him, still warm from the oven. This scene repeated itself each week, just before Shabbat, for 30 years. One Friday morning, as Jacobo was placing the challah in the ark, as he had done every week for 3 decades, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see the rabbi, now a very old man. "What are you doing?" the rabbi shouted at him. I promise I'll never shout at you. "What do you mean you're putting bread into the ark?" "I bring these loaves of challah to God every week," Jacobo explained. "I have been doing this for 30 years. You have been bringing challah to God every week for 30 years? Asked the rabbi in amazement. "What in the world for?" "Because of what you taught, of course." He recounted what he remembered of the rabbi's sermon about the loaves of bread in the temple in Jerusalem 30 years prior. "I might test you in 30 years, though." "You fool, God doesn't eat food like people," said the rabbi. "Ah, you are learned and wise," said Jacobo, "but you don't know everything. You see, every week God accepts our gift of challah. For 30 years, there hasn't been a crumb left in the ark come Shabbat morning." Now the rabbi was curious, so he said, "Jacobo, let us hide in the back row of the synagogue and see just what happens to your challah." So the 2 men hid behind the last row of benches and waited. They didn't have to wait very long. Several minutes later, the helper entered the room and immediately approached the ark. Opening the door, he prayed, "Lord, for 30 years you have fed my family and sustained us in good times and bad. we continue to give you thanks." The rabbi jumped up out of the back row and screamed, "You too are a fool. Do you think that God bakes bread and leaves the loaves in the ark?" The helper hung his head in shame and began crying. "I don't get paid for cleaning the synagogue, Rabbi. I thought this was God's way of repaying me for my work." At just that moment, the Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Ari, walked into the synagogue, and hearing the loud and angry voice of the rabbi and the sobbing of the helper, asked what was happening. The helper was miserable because he knew he would never find challah in the ark again. Jacobo was miserable because he had simply wanted to please God, and now he could no longer do this. When the entire story had been explained to him, Rabbi Luria smiled and turned first to the rabbi. "Rabbi, never since the destruction of the temple has God had such pleasure as from watching what has gone on in your synagogue each week for the past 30 years. Then the Ari turned to Jacobo and the helper. "Now that you know who is eating the challah, it will be more difficult to continue as you have for 30 years. But I want you to continue as you have and believe with perfect faith that if you, Jacobo, bring your challah directly to the synagogue helper, God will be pleased no less than before. For it is through acts of love and kindness that we serve God and repair the world." And you, the great Ari, turned to the helper. "Know that these loaves were baked by Jacobo and Esperanza, but they come from God. Because Jews are commanded to do the work of God in the world, feeding the hungry and binding the wounds to those who suffer." From that day on, Esperanza and Jacobo baked 12 loaves of challah each Friday, as they had for 3 decades, and brought it directly to the home of the synagogue helper, who gratefully accepted the loaves. So as you think about this story, I want to ask you, what does it make you think about for today's world? As you're thinking, I'll tell you why I decided to share it, particularly on this Shabbat. Here's your Jeopardy question of the week. What's the Torah portion for this Shabbat? And if they ever ask this on Jeopardy and you see it, please call me. Anybody know? Name of the Torah portion for this Shabbat? It's okay if you don't. This week's Torah portion is called Amor. We're nearing the end of the book of Leviticus. We're not quite there yet. But one of the things that is laid out in this week's Torah portion is our festival calendar. It tells us when and how holidays should be celebrated. It's in Leviticus chapter 23 that we hear about our festival calendar. In our festival calendar, it talks about these little itty-bitty details of what we're supposed to do in order to celebrate different holidays. But I wanted to tell this story tonight because some of us get stuck in those details. Some of us get stuck in trying to figure out exactly what we're supposed to do when a holiday comes about. But there's commentary on this week's Torah portion that tells us that the word in Hebrew moed is repeated a few times in the same sentence, which isn't really needed for the grammar of the sentence. So the rabbis need to know why it's there. So there's commentary that tells us the reason moed, which means appointed time or festival, is in it multiple times, is to tell us about this partnership we have with God. God might tell us when the festivals are and what the festivals are, but they're not truly made holy until we do something to celebrate those festivals. So my reason for telling this story tonight was, don't get stuck in the details.
Jacobo had no clue what the rabbi was really talking about. I promise you the rabbi was not teaching him to bake bread and put it in the ark. But that's what he thought he needed to do to have his connection with God. And for 30 years, he was able to help another member of the community. And in the end, we learn that, of course, it wasn't God eating the bread, but you were still connecting with God because you were still doing God's work. So I challenge all of you to think about when we come to another holiday, whether it be Shabbat or Shavuot, or I'm already starting to think about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Can you believe it? Whatever it comes to, don't get stuck in the details of what you think you're supposed to do, but try to discover for yourself what the true meaning is of that action. So I hope we're each able to find whatever it is we need on this Shabbat, to find whatever it is we need for each holiday, and know that what we do with our Jewish rituals is us partnering with God. Now, I don't expect to show up next week and have challah inside our beautiful new ark, please. But whatever it is for you to reinvent these rituals and create moments of holiness in your life is what I challenge you to do each time you think about our ancient rituals. Shabbat Shalom. In the ark, a good veggie thin crust maybe from New York I'd be okay with. Okay. Probably not. Let us prepare to conclude our service as I invite up some of my friends here. Isaac, you want to come up? Noah, you want to come up? Don't do anything yet. I'm going to invite everybody to turn to the words of Aleinu, which can be found on page 586. And I'm going to invite you to please rise. We join together. Aleinu l'shabech ladon hakol, lateit nedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu notei shamayim v'yosed aretz, u'moshe kikaro b'shamayim ima'al, u'shkinatu zo, v'gopei meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od, emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatu betorato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota el levavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, hashamayim mima'al, ve'al haaretz mitachad ein od. We read together page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech. May we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'chaya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yichya Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You can both close
You may be seated. There's some candy up there if it's okay with your grown-ups. As our prayers draw to a close this evening, we turn our thoughts to our loved ones who are no more. Tonight we remember 3 taken from us recently: James Coker, Harry Rubenstein Saxe, and Chuck Schwing. To their names, we add the names of those who passed away during the past year: Stacy Summer, Alvin Mykoff, John Carlson, Ruth Ann Miller, John Roheim, Barry Burton, Shirley Judge, Betty Simmons, Lee Kaplan, Joanne Bender, Leonard Knackman, Rowan Hausman, Maureen Corcoran, Lucy Silva, Larry Zachem, Richard Price Marcus, Eddie Goldman, Eleanor McKee, Faye Ruth, Joseph Schieber, and Elaine Rose Kaplan. We also think of those who died at this season in years past and whose family members are observing the Yortzeit anniversary of death on this Shabbat. May Clegg, Mickey Clemens, Stella DeWork, Ralph Holloway, Samuel Kaufman, Bertha Kern, Julia Marks, Rose Olbaum, Miriam Posner, Ted Rice, Sanders Sabin, Joseph Saltz, Max Schwartz, Jose Shamaria, Everett Smolinski, Earl Suffren, and Antoinette White. If there are others you are remembering, if you'd like to share their names aloud, I invite you to do so. For those names we heard aloud, those whom we hold in our hearts, and those who have lost their lives in Israel, we offer these prayers of Mourners Kaddish, page 598, and I invite you to rise if you wish. Yitgadol v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirotei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon u'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yahei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudasha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yahei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May all their memories be for a blessing, as together we say, Amen. You may be seated as I invite Scott, representing our board, to share some brief announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We welcome everyone. Tomorrow morning, there will be a Torah study in the Lifelong Learning Center and on Zoom at 9:30. Minyan in the library at 10 o'clock. Services in the sanctuary at 10:30. Tomorrow night, there will be a Havdalah service on Zoom hosted by the Saxe family at 6 p.m. On Monday at 10 a.m., join Rabbi Smiley and others in a rally against anti-Semitism on the steps of the state capitol. Celebrate with our community as Eleanor Cohn is called to the Torah as a bat mitzvah during Shabbat services Friday, May 31st and Saturday, June 1st. We are excited to welcome Cantor Joel Coleman to help lead us in prayer during the Saturday morning, June 1st service. Help us welcome Rabbinic Interim Ora Jacobson. Is that? Yeah. Huh? I said it correct. You know what I have to say, though, and be brief here. It is a talent as a rabbi that you can say everyone's name. I was very impressed. Will you say it with such authority? I think it's correct. During Friday night Shabbat services on June 7th, Rabbinic Interim Jacobson will spend 6 weeks with our community this summer to learn and to teach. For more details about these events, please go to our website and revert to the weekly announcements. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Scott, and I'm pretty sure that some of them are mistakes, but I try my best. So you heard tonight during the announcements, this has not been sent out yet, but it will. We're very lucky this summer. We're having a rabbinic intern join us for 6 weeks. She is a rising fifth-year, final-year student at Hebrew Union College in New York, and will be joining us here to learn about the Jewish community in Baton Rouge and to share her talents with us. So very excited to have her. And also some of you might be familiar with the cantor's name that was said, Cantor Joel Coleman, because he used to be the cantor at Temple Sinai in New Orleans, and he is coming to help us out on June 1st for our services. So very excited for all of the wonderful things coming up. Let us join together on page 625 in an oldie but a goodie. Yes, I know it could be done in 1,200 different ways to every single different song on the planet. I'm going to do it the way I know how to do it, but I am sure we could try another way another week. 625, Adon Olam. I invite you to join with me. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, V'chefsa Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora Adon Olam, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Hoveh, Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam, Ve'hu Echad, Ve'ein Sheni, Laham Shilo Lehachbira Adon Olam, Ve'li Reshit, Ve'li Tachlit, Ve'lo ha'oz ve'ha'misra Adon Olam, Ve'hu Eli, Ve'chai go'ali, Ve'tzor chevli be'et sara Adon Olam, Ve'hu nisi, umanosli, Menat kosi be'yom ekra Adon Olam, Be'yado, afkid ruchi, Be'et ishan ve'ayira Adon Olam, Ve'im ruchi, Geviati, Adonai li velo ira Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, V'chefsa Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam. Jacob, do you want to help me? Would you like to go and pick up our Kiddush cup for us? With some ruach and enthusiasm. The rest of us are going to turn to page 123, and I'm going to invite you all to please rise. Ready? Hold it high for us. We join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, V'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, Ki hu yom techila lamikrae kodesh, Zecher letziat Mitzrayim, Ki vanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim, Ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. v'chaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim. I don't know what's in there. Real wine with that face. Noah, you want to come up too? I'm going to have all three of you now uncover that challah. Hold it by holding the plate. Anybody who's comfortable, if we want to make a big chain, if you want to come forward and touch someone touching the challah as we come together as one community. Any takers? No takers? Let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Enjoy some challah and Shabbat Shalom.